Tennis is a king or queen of all the racket sports, that's true, but tennis is endangered. And if we don't do something about it, paddle, pickleball, they're going to convert all the tennis clubs into paddle and pickleball.
The thing that annoys me about it, Michael, is that the pickleball courts are taking over 35% or so of the tennis courts here in the U.S. and in Canada. Hey, get off our tennis turf.
You walk into your local tennis club and something feels off. There are new lines painted on the courts, a different kind of net, and the sound is all wrong. Instead of the familiar thwack of tennis balls, you hear the sharp, hollow pop echoing across the park. Then you see them, faces you don't recognize, hitting balls that sound like they're amplified. And just when you think it can't get weirder, you find out your favorite tennis legends are endorsing this sport. Corporate sponsors are throwing millions at professional leagues. Tournament prize money rivals what you'd see at legitimate tennis events. Wait, how did we get here? How did pickleball and paddle go from backyard hobbies to legitimate threats to tennis? And what does this mean for the future of the sport we love? To understand what's happening, we need to talk about tennis's dirty secret. The sport has been sabotaging itself for years. Novak Djokovic said the quiet part out loud during a Wimbledon interview when he revealed where tennis ranks in annual media revenues among major global sports. Rock bottom, dead last. This isn't some struggling niche activity. This is supposed to be one of the world's premier sports, yet it's getting demolished in revenue generation by leagues that barely exist outside their home countries. The problem isn't lack of talent or excitement. The problem is that 7 different organizations control tennis, each with their own management layers, PR teams, and agendas that rarely align. The 4 Grand Slams operate independently. Then you've got the ATP, the WTA, and ITF all pulling in different directions. What does this mean for fans? Your favorite match highlights get copyright strikes on YouTube. Streaming options are limited and fragmented. In an era where viral moments and social media engagement determine which sports explode in popularity, tennis is actively fighting against its own growth. The sport is choking itself with bureaucracy, while competitors are moving fast and breaking things. And oh, did those competitors move fast. Pickleball was invented back in 1965 on Bainbridge Island, Washington. The story goes it was named after the inventor's dog, Pickles. By 1990, it had spread to all 50 states, but nobody really cared. It was something retirees played at community centers, a footnote in the world of racket sports. Then, 2020 happened. The pandemic shut down indoor sports, eliminated contact activities, and left people desperate for something, anything, to do outside. Pickleball was perfectly positioned. Outdoor courts, no physical contact, easy to maintain distance between players. While tennis struggled with its usual organizational chaos, pickleball exploded. The growth numbers are actually insane. The USA Pickleball Association had 4,000 members in 2013. Today, over 55,000, and that doesn't capture the 40 million Americans who've played the sport. 130 new locations are opening every month. If you live in a mid-sized city, you've probably seen a chicken and pickle or some pickleball-themed venue pop up in the last year. These aren't just courts, they're social destinations combining food, drinks, and recreation into one package. The sport went from niche to mainstream, while tennis was still arguing about streaming rights. So what makes pickleball so appealing? First, it's accessible in a way tennis never has been. The courts are smaller, which means less running, and shorter games. Whether you're 25 or 75, you can get a decent workout without feeling like you're training for Wimbledon. Second, the learning curve is forgiving. Tennis punishes you for bad technique. Your serve goes into the net, your ground strokes sail long, and frustration builds quickly. Pickleball gives you instant gratification. You're hitting decent shots within your first hour, having fun within your first session. Third, pickleball is built for community. The game is almost always played as doubles, which means you're constantly interacting with others, building relationships on and off the court. Tennis can feel isolating, especially for beginners who spend most of their time chasing balls. Pickleball venues are designed as hangout spots where the sport is part of the social experience, not the entire experience. Fourth, there's real money flowing into the sport now. Companies have figured out that pickleball saves time and money compared to golf while being more inclusive for clients who've never played before. You can close a deal over a quick pickleball match and lunch in 2 hours instead of blocking off half half a day for 18 holes. The business world is paying attention, and where business goes, investment follows. And here's the twist that nobody saw coming. The average age of casual pickleball players has dropped to 34, and the largest demographic in early 2024 was 18 to 24-year-olds. Gen Z is all in on pickleball. The generation that grew up on TikTok and Instagram found a sport that's easy to film, fun to watch in short clips, and doesn't require years of practice to look decent. That youth appeal brings media exposure, which brings more mainstream acceptance, which brings celebrity endorsements. LeBron James, Tom Brady, and even tennis star Nick Kyrgios have invested 7 figures into Major League Pickleball franchises. But here's where it gets interesting. Some tennis players thought they could just waltz into pickleball and dominate. Noah Rubin was a Wimbledon Juniors champion and top USTA junior. He left tennis for pickleball in 2022, figuring his skills would translate. After a year of grinding on the pickleball tour with limited success, he quietly returned to tennis in 2024. Sam Querrey, former world number 11 who beat Djokovic, Murray, and Nadal in his prime, hasn't exactly destroyed the competition in pickleball. Jack Sock, who reached number 8 in the world and won multiple ATP titles, is having success in pickleball, but even he had to learn the sport from scratch. The lesson? Pickleball is easier to learn than tennis, but the sports are different enough that tennis players don't automatically dominate. The big serves don't translate. The strokes are different. There are specific strategies like extended dinking that have no tennis equivalent. Tennis players have an advantage, sure, but they still need to put in the work, which proves pickleball has legitimate competitive depth despite its accessible entry point. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, padel was staging its own takeover. Like pickleball, padel was invented decades ago, in 1960s Mexico, by a guy named Enrique Corcuera, who didn't have enough space for a tennis court at his holiday home in Acapulco. He improvised by building a smaller court with walls at both ends, creating a hybrid of tennis and squash. The sport drifted into obscurity until, you guessed it, the pandemic gave it the same boost pickleball received. Today, padel is played in over 100 countries, and its impact in Europe mirrors what pickleball has done in America. The UK had around 500 paddle courts a couple years ago and expects to double that number soon. Spain has gone absolutely wild for the sport, making it the country's second most popular activity behind football. Nearly half of all paddle courts worldwide are located in Spain, and over 6 million Spaniards have played in the last 2 years. The growth curve is identical to pickleball. 6,000 courts worldwide in 2014, now pushing 50,000. Paddle sold itself as a less stressful alternative to tennis. The familiar pain points of tennis, constantly hitting serves into the net or smashing ground strokes long, are minimized in paddle. The glass walls keep balls in play longer, which means more rallies and less time chasing balls. Like pickleball, paddle works for all ages and skill levels because there's less court to cover, and players of different abilities can share the same space without anyone feeling overwhelmed. Now here's where things get tense. The growth of pickleball and paddle isn't just theoretical competition for tennis, it's a literal turf war. In 2021, someone poured 5 liters of oil on pickleball courts in Santa Rosa, California, and left a note threatening players. In 2022, pickleball players staged a takeover at the Peninsula Tennis Club in San Diego, demanding courts be converted for their sport. Martina Navratilova saw this coming and spoke out about not wanting to lose tennis courts to pickleball. Her warning was ignored. In 2022 alone, nearly 6,000 pickleball courts were built, converted, or added. Recreation centers, schools, and community organizations looked at the economics and made a choice. From a business perspective, the math is brutal for tennis. You can fit 3 or 4 pickleball courts in the space of one tennis court. Tennis is typically played 1-on-1 or 2-on-2. Pickleball courts regularly have 4 players, which means you're generating revenue from 12 to 16 people in the same space where tennis serves 2 to 4. Those players are buying drinks, paying court fees, and sticking around longer because the social component keeps them engaged. Tennis club managers aren't being malicious. They're making business decisions to keep their facilities profitable. But let's be real about something. Tennis isn't going anywhere at the professional level. The sport has over a century of history, global infrastructure, and an established pipeline from junior development to professional tours. Pickleball may have won over casual players, but the athletes competing at the highest level of racket sports will likely choose tennis once the novelty wears off. There's a ceiling to how impressive you can look playing pickleball. The court is small, the ball moves slower, and the physical expression of elite athleticism is limited compared to tennis. Advanced strategies exist, absolutely, but they're harder for casual viewers to appreciate, which could hurt long-term spectatorship. Pickleball also has practical problems tennis doesn't face. The noise issue is real. A pickleball hitting a paddle registers around 80 decibels, well above the World Health Organization's acceptable outdoor noise level of 50 decibels. Some communities have already banned the sport because residents can't handle the constant pop, pop, pop echoing through neighborhoods. Eye injuries are becoming a concern too, with the ball traveling at 40 miles per hour and players standing close to each other at the no-volley line. These aren't deal breakers, but they're friction points that could slow growth. Still, the money flowing into pickleball and paddle is undeniable. Celebrities and investors have spotted three main opportunities. First, building courts. Zlatan Ibrahimovic opened Pandal Center facilities across Europe, with a massive complex in Stockholm featuring a dozen state-of-the-art paddle courts, plus locations in Milan and Greece. Second, infrastructure investment. Organizations like Game 4 Paddle are raising funds to expand facilities globally. Third, team ownership. Mark Cuban owns a team in the Vibe Pickleball League. Tennis stars Andy Murray and Serena Williams have backed paddle. Soccer legends like Messi, Beckham, Lewandowski, Zidane, and Neymar are all involved. The first Major League Pickleball event featured 12 teams, 48 athletes, and $5 million in prize money. Team owners included LeBron James, Heidi Klum, Michael Phelps, Nick Kyrgios, and Naomi Osaka. The DC Pickleball team is backed by Eva Longoria, Masoud Ozil, and Kate Upton. Naomi Osaka's agency now has a division representing pro pickleball players. Ben Johns, the world's top-ranked player, makes $2.5 million annually before endorsements. This isn't a hobby anymore. It's a legitimate professional ecosystem. Both sports have Olympic ambitions. Paddle needs 75 national federations to qualify for the Olympics and currently has 62, which means it could realistically appear at the 2032 Brisbane Games. Once that happens, expect state funding from governments worldwide to pour in. Professional paddle already airs on Sky and BT Sport in the UK. Qatar Sports Investments, the group behind Paris Saint-Germain, has pumped major money into the Premier Paddle Tour with plans for 25 annual tournaments, including 4 Grand Slams with massive prize pools. Pickleball is more America-focused, but European players believe it could reach the Olympics by 2036. So what does tennis need to do? Stop asking what pickleball is doing right and start asking what tennis is doing wrong. The 7 organizations controlling tennis need to find common ground and stop cannibalizing each other, build stronger communities at the club level instead of treating recreational players as an afterthought. Lower the barriers for professional players to make a living instead of creating a system where only the top 100 can survive. Most importantly, embrace the digital age. Stop copyright striking fan content. Make highlights accessible. Create streaming options that actually work. The sport should be capturing the attention of younger audiences, not alienating them with outdated distribution models. Here's the reality check, though. Despite all the noise about pickleball and paddle taking over, tennis added 250,000 players in 2023, marking 4 consecutive years of growth. The curve flattened slightly, but the trajectory is still upward. According to the USTA, just holding steady in an increasingly competitive sports environment should be considered a success. There are over 25 million Americans who don't currently play tennis, but say they're very interested in trying it. The demand exists. Tennis just needs to make it easier for those people to follow through. Maybe the real question isn't whether pickleball and paddle are threats. Maybe it's whether tennis is finally ready to get out of its own way. Andy Murray said it best, the sports can coexist. Padel is a great entry point for people trying racket sports because it's easy to learn. But tennis has the technicality, the tactics, the athleticism that keeps it compelling to watch. The two don't have to be enemies. And if you need proof that collaboration might be the answer, just look at Roland Garros. In 2024, they installed pickleball courts on Court 5 to increase attendance at the French Open. That's not surrender. That's adaptation. That's recognizing that growing the overall racket sports community benefits everyone. High water raises all boats. And right now the tide is rising for pickleball, paddle, and yes, still for tennis. So the next time you see your favorite tennis star holding a paddle or hear about another celebrity investing millions into these sports, don't panic. This might be exactly the wake-up call tennis needed. The question is whether the people running the sport are actually listening. What changes would make you play more tennis? Drop your thoughts below, and if you want more videos breaking down what's really happening in the tennis world, hit that subscribe button. Let's figure this out together.